Hey, Clemson family, if there's a position group on the field that needs improvement, well, I think there are several, but definitely the wide receivers are one of them. But there are plenty of reasons to think that they can be better in 2024.
I'm Daniel Shirley. I think they will be better, and then we'll see a new ACC opponent this year who we'll break down for you in this episode.
Yeah, not a lot of us know much about Stanford, I don't think, other than Dabo Swinney being friends with their former head coach, David Shaw. So we will take a look at the Cardinal. Is that the only singular mascot in the ACC now? Are they the first?
I believe so. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. That's
how
right.
about
I
that?
won't say in college because there are some other ones in college, but
Oh,
in the ACC, that's the only one.
for sure. I'm Bill Zimmerman. Welcome to the Reign Supreme All Way podcast. Unless something pops unexpectedly, this should be episode 117, I believe. So we are trucking right along. We are glad you're here, and we hope you're going to comment in this episode. Tell us what you think about this wide receiver room. If you have a thought about Stanford, I don't know if anybody will. Go ahead and add that in as well. You can find us on Twitter at Clemson Kickoff. That's where we're most active on social media, but we're on all the platforms. Our homepage is under reconstruction, so I'm not going to mention the URL right now. We got a little war between two providers who are supposed to be helping us out, and neither one wants to. Let's go ahead and get into wide receivers. Hopefully, that group is going to be better than our web hosts are trying to be right now. And it really is a room that has a ton of potential. How many years have we been saying that?
Yeah, it's been a while, right? Since the potential has lived up to the talent and the lived up to that and has been what you would think it would be. I mean, remember just the years of Sammy Watkins and Nuke Hopkins and Mike Williams and T. Higgins and where's that, right? And we've
Yeah.
talked about it for a couple of years. But Bill, I feel like this is the year, not that they get back to that level, but the year they start heading back to that level and seeing the big plays that have been missing in this offense. That's to me the biggest problem with the offense for the last 3-4 years is everything has felt like a chore. And, we've talked about it on the podcast before of, last year Clemson among the leaders in first downs and, you know, keeping the ball and all that, but they had to work so hard to score. You need a couple of easy plays every couple of game or every game to kind of get your offense juiced up. I think we'll start to see more of that this year.
Yeah, David Hale at ESPN, who covers the ACC a lot, loves to look at those national numbers for big plays, and Clemson has not been part of that in recent years like we're accustomed to. But I'll tell you one good thing. I think some of the pressure is coming off of Tyler Grisham because he has developed a couple of really good freshmen each of the last two seasons. And without getting into specifics about the freshmen this year, I think that is going to be the theme again. He's going to have to manage that once more.
Well, and even with injuries, the last couple of years we've seen Tyler Brown, Antonio Williams. Antonio Williams, we thought, hey, he had such a great freshman year. Boom, he's going to be great next year. And then he gets hurt. Well, then Tyler Brown steps in and has a really, really good freshman year. So those two guys, again, depending on injuries, we know we can't project far out in college football anymore because of the portal. But those two guys, at least this year, should have a huge impact on this offense.
Yep, we'll get into Tyler Brown. I think he does a really nice job of working kind of underneath, kind of mid-range as well, and creating some yardage after catch. I don't know that he's really the guy you want running those fly routes, though, or those deep posts.
No, I guess he's more of a quote slot guy, right? I mean, I think he can. I think he's comfortable at both spots, inside and out. But he's more dangerous, I think, on the inside, and see him as one of those guys running the jet sweeps and those kinds of things as well. So, but really talented. Love his game. Love what he can bring to the team when you have the outside threats who can really beat you deep, and then you get Tyler the ball a little more under the middle or over the middle or underneath, those kinds of things. He can really have a big impact.
And that's where we've seen Antonio Williams thrive as well. But I do feel like even though Williams isn't your prototypical skinny post kind of guy or deep threat, I do think he's got a little more potential there maybe than Brown does if they don't want to have two guys doing the same stuff.
It's hard to believe he's a junior.
I know.
right? I mean, it feels like he just got on campus, and again, you're kind of robbed of last year seeing what he could have become because he didn't play very much, although he did play in the bowl game and made a couple of big plays in the bowl game. So I think those two guys are where all of this starts with the wide receiver group, and then you start to sprinkle some of these other guys in.
Well, let's sprinkle in Bryant Wesco.
Whew.
He certainly made his presence felt there in the spring game. A beautiful touchdown catch, real nice focus on the ball. He was covered pretty well, but he managed to haul that one in, and you could just see the kind of energy that he brought. And it didn't lead to a, lights out offensive attack during the spring game or anything, but he certainly showed that he's going to be able to contribute on some level, and you wonder just how much he will be able to.
Well, and Bill, for Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, when they were coming into the league in the NFL and they were being evaluated by draftniks, one of their marks against them was, oh, they just throw the ball up, the 50-50 balls. They're just throwing the ball up. That's part of the offense. And you need the guy on the other end to make the play. And Clemson hasn't had that for 2 or 3 years. Bryant Wesco can go make the play, go get the ball. And it's not really a quote 50-50 ball. It's a designed play because my guy's bigger than your guy and he can jump higher than your guy. Remember the catches by Mike Williams in the first championship game win. Those aren't just throw it up and pray plays. Those are designed plays because he's a big dude. Throw it up to him and let him go make a play.
Yeah, boy, Williams just knew how to use those broad shoulders of his and really shield off the defensive back, and that gave him an advantage in fighting for the ball for sure. And I just loved his focus. I don't know that we can expect that out of Bryant Wesco just in his freshman year, and
Not
then
yet. But
and then TJ Moore joins as well. He'll be a fall freshman. We did not get to see him as an early enrollee in the spring game, but he created a ton of hope in the All American game that he competed in and just had a huge day there. So there is a lot of buzz about whether or not he'll be able to come right in.
well, and you look at those four right there.
Mm,
Give me those four and let's go to work,
yeah.
right? I mean, if you're a Clemson fan, I think you would say that. And there's also been a lot of that the last 3 years. Oh, well, this guy's going to be great or this guy's going to be great and we talk about that word potential all the time. It just feels like this is more like Clemson in the past where you can kind of count on. I mean, I don't think you can ever count on a guy coming in and being Sammy Watkins and 2 games into his career, he's the best player on the field, right? I don't think that's going to happen. But these guys, these 4 guys that we have listed there make a really, really strong core, even though 2 of them are freshmen.
Yeah. Jump in the comments. Let us know what you think those freshmen are going to be able to do, and those still young and rising receivers. And here's another guy. Talk about someone who maybe could have come in if not for the injury and been that kind of Sammy Watkins presence. Adam Randall. He just absolutely has star quality all about him. He had it in high school, showed it in the first spring when he showed on campus. Then he blew out his ACL. You're hoping beyond all hope that he is really, really ready to go. Maybe a little more urgency with the room getting more crowded, and especially with the role that he has a chance to shine in, which is again getting deep.
And what is his role is what we're going to find out, right? And Bill, look, I thought he played well in the bowl game. He had
Yeah,
a huge catch on 3rd down where he caught the ball 3 yards short of the first down, fights for the first down, gets the first down on the I think it was the game-winning drive. I'm pretty sure it was late there against Kentucky. So I think that this is a guy who may be a little bit driven now. Maybe that was, a part of the problem in the past, a little more laissez-faire than you want. But this guy, I mean, it looks like he's driven now. And maybe it is because there's more competition in the room. We'll see if that works out.
yep. And then you look for that steady presence, and I think Troy Stellato showed the ability to do that and be kind of a broad-shouldered target, maybe not going up in the air for a 50-50 ball, but a guy that you can spot in traffic. Make sure you want to get the ball to him when you need to. I don't want to just diminish it down to like security blanket kind of role, but Stellato also fought the injury bug for a couple of years
Yeah.
and sure appears like he's ready to be more of a presence. And then maybe with his physique, he can be a part of better blocking among this group, which would not only open things up, for the running game, but really takes a little pressure off coverage because maybe you're not getting jammed quite the same. Maybe defenses are having to bring another guy up in the box. The last couple of years, opposing defenses have been able to stop the Clemson run without really overcrowding the box. Pardon me. Maybe stretching the field a little more puts a bit of a premium on that.
Well, and you know what? It also helps Bill is, and that's a great point, is in the screen game.
Yeah.
How many times the last couple of years have we seen screens thrown and the blocking is just not efficient and what you need on the outside, and the receiver who catches the ball loses 2 yards. Yeah. That's got to stop. That's got to stop. And look, I think Stellato had a really good year last year. The game he had against Notre Dame, the catch he had over the middle where he caught the ball with his hands, he's fighting the DB for the ball. That one really stands out to me. And Dabo Swinney made a couple of jokes about him staying healthy, and he was healthy last year and really contributed to this team. So, I mean, you're looking there at 6 wide receivers at this point. I mean, I think that's a group that you can go win with as long as they continue to progress and stay healthy.
Yep. The other thing about blocking, they could use some better blocking from their offensive line, creating some passing lanes and some vision that Cade Klubnik can benefit from. Look, they've got to get open deep. That will definitely change things. And we didn't even mention Cole Turner coming off of injury. Right. A guy with speed, another guy who might be able to get those vertical routes and help stretch those defenses. Whoever is able to do that, that's what lets Garrett Riley really throw the full offense out there on the field and start mixing it up the way he was able to with TCU, the way he was able to with SMU. I'm not saying that it's all on the deep game. There are other things that have to happen, but that is certainly a key component, and we just haven't seen as much of it in recent years as we saw during that playoff run.
Well, no, we haven't seen it very much at all, right? I mean, the last couple of years anyway. The last 2 years, again, we've seen, here and there. I mean, Cole Turner in the ACC championship game, the big catch a couple of years ago. But again, go back to our first point. It felt like everything has been a chore these last 2 years, and you need big plays at some point in a game if you're going to win games. I don't think it's all about turnovers. I don't think it's all about big plays. I don't think it's all about stopping the run. These are all pieces of the puzzle. But the deep game has been missing for Clemson in the last 2 years.
Yeah. You and I have not exactly been, hey, Tyler Grisham has brought down the 2 stone tablets with 10 commandments from on high the last couple of years. I've eased up on him because I have seen not just Antonio Williams, but Tyler Brown. Neither one really a 5-star recruit, although highly respected on the recruiting trail. Each of them was. I tend to give Grisham a little more credit now because he's been able to do that 2 years in a row. Now he's got a couple of prime talents that he needs to make sure one of them can contribute, maybe not week 1 against Georgia, but fairly early this year and keep that going.
Well, and, we've seen Dabo Swinney make changes the last 2 years, right, with the staff, with OC, defensive line, who am I leaving out there? Offensive line, right? We've seen those changes, and I think you and I have kind of wondered about what about wide receiver. Well, if you see improvement, and you see these 2 stud freshmen coming in, I think you back off a little bit. But now, if they don't produce this year, we're right back where we started from, right? If Clemson's wide receivers struggle again, at some point it can't be all just the injuries. It can't just all be bad luck. There's going to be a little bit of pressure on him for sure.
Absolutely. So the wide receivers, by the way, we've been doing these 10 for 24 series, the position previews in order of where we think the groups rank at the start of the season. Receivers check in at number 8. You can go see the other groups that we have covered so far at youtube.com/Clemson Kickoff. All our episodes are there. It's an easy playlist right at the top. You can just pop it up as a podcast. We've also been getting these back onto Apple and Spotify, and we're also on YouTube Music for you folks who prefer just the audio format. So we're going to do a first here.
You prefer the audio format over looking at this? Come on, man.
Come on. Do I have like a pillow?
Why do you think I grew out this beard? I want everybody to see it. I don't want it to be hiding from on YouTube Music. Come on.
Are you going to keep that going until as long as Clemson keeps the winning streak going from last season into this season?
Yes. No, I think it's here to stay. I
All
think it's
right.
here to stay. We'll see.
Nice. We've also been previewing opponents in 10 for 24, a separate series, but this is the episode where they collide. We are going to get into Stanford, take a look at the Cardinal, as we mentioned at the top of the show, the newest ACC member. And if you are wondering how good they can be and can they come in and make a buzz, I am trying not to be too mean, but I don't have high hopes for the Cardinal in the ACC this year. It is the second year for them under head coach Troy Taylor. He is 33-14 overall, and in his first season last year, he went 3-9 and 2-7 in a Pac-12 that I don't think was as deep throughout. Certainly, the top of the Pac-12 was better than the ACC, but I don't think the Pac-12 was as well stocked in the middle and at the bottom as the ACC was.
I like Troy Taylor, but I think Stanford is going to be at the bottom of the conference. I just feel like, it's not like, oh my God, they can't compete, because of they're coming from FCS or something like that. It's not that big of a transition. I'm not saying that, but I think they are going through some stuff with a newish coaching staff and transition with their program where, I mean, Bill, what could you see them in the same group with Boston College and Cal and who else at the bottom? I
hate to say UVA because I like Tony Elliott a lot,
UVA,
but
right?
probably UVA.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what Stanford is this year. I do like the fact that Clemson is playing Stanford at home and
Yes.
not making the trip out to California this year.
Although, they've traveled pretty well to California
They
recently
have, right,
against
and
to play a team in kind of this color.
especially in Northern California, right? They've
Yeah.
had some success, but
There you go.
I'm glad that's not happening this year.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that Clemson's not playing on Black Friday, but I'm sure we'll talk about that another
Oh my
day.
gosh.
But I think I don't mind. I know a lot of people are freaking out about Stanford, Cal, SMU being in the ACC. I don't mind it.
Right.
I kind of wish the ACC had gone further and added Wazoo and Oregon State too. Whatever, you can disagree with that, but I don't mind this for the short term as we see what the ACC has become or will become in the next decade. I just don't think Stanford can compete right now.
No, and as I looked at the defense doing this prep for this episode, Anthony Franklin on the defensive line, one of the few guys coming back who's really got some stats to his name, and they are not plentiful stats. The heart of the defense really is these two linebackers, Tristan Sinclair, and I hope I'm going to say this right, Gaetan Bernadelle. Apologies if I'm getting that wrong. Those two guys led the team in tackles last year, and looking around at what they've got this year, I'd expect that would be the same again. The DB group is led by corner Colin Wright, and not a lot of returning experience after that. But again, like you said, the hope for the Cardinal is that it's a transitional season and they'll start taking some steps in the right direction. Wide receiver is also another decent spot for them. 1,000-yard receiver in another, again, I hope I say this right, Elic Iomanar.
Close enough.
Okay, very good.
As my dad used to say, close enough for government work, right?
I'm used to just having to spell them.
Yeah, there you go.
Even a couple of years into this podcast, and what I say, 117 episodes in, I still don't always manage to find a pronunciation guide despite my best efforts. And then Tiger Bachmeyer also at wide receiver, showing some promise. Offensive line, they allowed 41 sacks last year. Let's see how much they can bulk that up. We've talked about offensive line is a slow rebuild. That is not a quick turnaround. Usually one of the longer projects an incoming coach has to manage. The former Dallas Cowboys fan in me saw this name was intriguing, Cedric Irvin, and he is indeed kind of a distant relative, sort of like Vic Burley and Nick Eason are distant relatives. Cedric Irvin, a distant relative of Michael Irvin, the former Cowboys standout. And so I'm sure that I will move on from this before Daniel, the Niners fan, can say anything about him. they've got a quarterback situation. Apparently, Ashton Daniels, who was a starter last year, might be facing a little bit of a challenge from a highly ranked freshman coming in Elijah Brown. If you have two quarterbacks, do you have none?
I think with a new staff, I think having competition is good. And again, I keep saying a new staff, it's their second year, it's not
Right.
brand new. But I think with a new staff, you want to see what Daniels is. You want to bring your own guy in, right? And kind of see what he can become. I don't mind a quarterback competition this early in a coach's tenure. And Troy has won as a coach before. Yes, it was on the smaller level. It's not where he is now, those kinds of things, but he has won. So I think you can see that he's got a winning system. He's got a winning culture. He's just got to bring that to Stanford and see how much it will work. And that probably is going to start at whichever one of these guys wins the quarterback spot.
Yeah, it's a tough road to hoe, as the old saying goes. And I think Taylor obviously brought some fine qualities into this. It's not that long ago that Stanford, you could count on them to have an NFL tight end, an NFL receiver, a quarterback who would latch on with a roster, whether it was a late round pick or a UFA, and you'd see him do fairly well. I think really the change to me has been in the trenches on both lines. You don't
Right.
see those offensive line and defensive line prospects like you used to. Maybe getting into the ACC helps that. I don't know that you can guarantee that. I don't know that you know you can make that more of a selling point than the Big Ten teams can and the Big 12 teams can that used to constitute the Pac-12. You would think they'd have an edge over Washington State and Oregon State, who you mentioned earlier. But we'll just have to see. I don't think this is the year, though, that it all comes together. Clemson had better be prepared, obviously. I mean, this team has learned that losing to some subpar opponents last year, Duke, Miami, NC State, there were really no excuses for losing any of those games. The Charleston Southern game stayed too close, too long for my
Oof.
taste. That
Yeah.
should not have happened the way it did. So this team has to be fully fired up. They have to respect Stanford. They have to find the names who are doing better than what we've seen on this list. And by the time they play in week 4, there's going to be some tape and there's going to be some, I would think, some highlights in every position group that, guys will have earned their way onto a list like this by then. But this really should be, I would think Stanford might not even be as much of a challenge as Appalachian State. And this might really be in a difficult early schedule for the Tigers, the game that really gives them a little bit of a breather. And they might need that after facing NC State.
Look, I think Clemson's got a really tough start to the schedule with UGA and App State, NC State. We've talked about it. This is a game where you can get right if things have gone wrong, or you can build some momentum for that middle part of the season where, Bill, we see it a lot of times. You're so excited about the opening of the season, and then there's a little bit of a lull in the middle third. And, with this expanded playoff, you don't want that to happen, because a loss to Georgia is not going to knock you out of the playoff, right? A loss to NC State, I don't think they're going to lose to NC State at home, but you're building something there. But these kinds of games, you have to win, and you have to win big to keep the storyline off of you that you're struggling, and to keep the narrative off of you that it's just the same old Clemson from the last couple of years. And then you go into the middle of the season, and you get to South Florida State, and the rest of the season. So I think this is a game, that you've got to be ready to play, and play clean and play smart. Don't turn the ball over like we saw last year, and you'll be able to win this game pretty easily.
Yep. Well, in our next episode, we will get into that Florida State game. We will also take a look at the defensive ends coming up, unless we start to slice and dice these a little bit. But that's the plan as of now, as we're recording this. YouTube.com/Clemson Kickoff. Catch all our episodes there. We are on Twitter more than the other social media services, but at Clemson Kickoff, wherever you want to find us. And until our next episode, I'm Bill Zimmerman.
I'm so proud you said Twitter and not X. I'm Daniel Shirley. Go Tigers.